Hi, I'm Beard, the producer here at Stonington Baptist Church. Matt was not able to join us today, so I figured I would take this time to provide a reminder of some of the great resources available on this channel, as well as provide some brief encouraging on reading and studying the Bible. The first resource I would like to highlight is our Sermons playlist. This is our Sunday morning worship service, and it's broadcast live every Sunday. This way you can join us online if you're unable to join us in person for the worship and sermon, or you can check in later to hear the sermon at your convenience. Pastor Brad does an excellent job each week revealing Jesus to us from texts throughout the Bible. Being in the middle of Advent here, Brad is currently covering a series of Psalms focusing on the coming King of Israel. Prior to the Advent series, Brad was in the middle of a series on Exodus, and we will be resuming that series in the new year. The second resource is our Sunday School series on Revelation. Pastor Eric is going verse by verse through the book and explaining all of the moments and obscure Bible references. This past week was part 22 of that series, and that covered the second half of chapter 8, verses 8 through 13. Eric does a great job of elaborating on all the confusing scenes and imagery and provides an opportunity for questions from any remaining confusion. Another resource that is partly for my own personal amusement is a Supercuts playlist. In our older Sunday School series, a Supercut would contain the entirety of the series. To keep it somewhat practical, the Supercuts for Revelation are composed of 5 episodes. The idea behind these Supercuts is to provide something to play in the background. And those are typically Sunday School series that are grouped together into these Supercuts. We don't currently have any other series, sermons of the Watchman videos. None of those are made into Supercuts yet. Now, if you're seeing this video, you're probably also aware that it is an interlude in a series called The Watchman. There's currently over 60 episodes available in the Watchman playlist, and Matt weekly provides a short study or devotional from various books of the Bible or different topics. Some of the series he has covered includes studies on the armor of God, the books of James, Ruth, Esther, Song of Solomon, as well as various topical episodes. The content releases every Wednesday morning, and runs from 5 or so minutes to the longer end can be 15 minutes, and once we went 20 minutes, but it's generally that 5 to 15 minute duration. Hopefully this content has been and will be encouraging, but now on to the Bible. The Bible is a book composed of 66 books divided in the Old and New Testament. It is more like a library than a single book, and across those 66 books are 1,189 chapters and 31,102 verses. The Old Testament has 3 main sections in the Christian canon: the books of history covering Genesis through Esther, the books of wisdom covering Job through Song of Songs, and the books of the prophets covering Isaiah through Malachi. The New Testament can also be understood as having 3 sections: the Gospel and the Acts of the Apostle, and the Epistles, and the book of Revelation. Considering its size, the idea of reading the Bible entirely through can be intimidating. I'd estimate it at about 100 hours of reading, but that is actually distributed down to about 15 minutes a day for 365 days. I recommend everyone at some point read through the whole Bible because it really helps to understand the biblical narrative of salvation. Now, reading the Bible through is not a substitute for studying it. Once you've read it, you won't actually be expected to remember everything. I mean, I've read through the minor prophets in the Old Testament around a dozen times, and I still don't remember the names of all 12 of them. Since the Bible is obviously a deep and complex text, it should be continually delved into to deepen our understanding. Reading it daily is generally surface level, especially when it's read at a rate to get through the whole thing in a year. Delving into the Bible requires studying passages in order to understand the lessons present. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 16 through 17 states that all Scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness, so that the servant of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. And there are many different ways to study the Bible. Some are possible alone, and others require a group to be beneficial. Using a study guide for passages in the Bible can be done both ways, but I prefer to use that method in a group setting. There's also the inductive method, which is the process of making observations about a passage, and then interpreting the passage, and then determining the application of the passage. This one can be well suited for independent study, but also works well in a group. The inductive method can also be used to introduce people to the Bible because it doesn't require the leader to be a scholar to effectively lead the study. It's all based around a text of that specific study for that time, and doesn't require deep knowledge of the rest of the Bible. Thank you, good day, and God bless.